Hello everybody, it's Jeanette here from my Cottage Crafts, and I'm just starting to make myself a paper pouch. And what I've done is I've cut out some papers from an old photo album. I've taken off, and it's handmade paper, it's beautiful paper. I've taken off all these little corner pieces. They were all like there and like there, and one over here and one over here, which wasn't easy because I didn't want to rip the paper too much. The unfortunate thing is on the other side of the paper they were in exactly the same spot. So some of them inevitably got little holes in them. So I do have some scrap paper though. So what I thought might be a good idea was if I could just, back those little holes. You can't really see where that goes, and it just gives it extra strength in those areas, and it will be sandwiched between the two sheets of paper. I'm using two sheets because I want this to be a little bit stronger. So let me just have a look. I might just be able to use a glue stick for this. I don't use glue sticks very often, but I have them. Oh, let's put it on that one there, because if I make that the inside, when I do that, that will be all right like that. And I'll just have to put a little glue on that side, like on this side as well. So I'll stick some pieces to this part with the good side up, and that way it'll show through on the good side on this top piece. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back. Alright, I have the pieces patched now. This little piece here will be the flap over, and these are the side pieces. So I can go ahead, I think, and put a bit of glue on those. They are going to be glued or stitched together. I'm not sure whether I'm going to glue or stitch them, to be honest. But this glue stick should hold them sandwiched together like that. That way I won't lose any of the pieces, and they'll be ready to go. I love this paper. It's beautiful paper. It was a wedding. I don't know whether I mentioned it was a wedding photo album I found while thrifting. And I've managed to use it over the time that I've had it in a few different projects, just cutting in between all the little photo corners for smaller bits, but I had to sort of use, for a larger project you can't just cut between because it wouldn't leave you with much paper. So I thought this would be the easiest way to do it. Gives a nice thickness to it as well. So okay, I'll go ahead and glue this one as well. Okay, so let me show you what I'm thinking of. I have this lovely piece of embroidery on glaze here, and what I would like to do is just put it in there like that and sandwich it in these papers, and that will be the flap that comes over the front of the pouch I'm making. I want that in there, but I also want to be able to insert maybe insert a bit of ribbon or something to tie it off. And this piece will be attached to this piece here. This is a little journal I'm working on. I'm making a little pouch for the journal. So that will be attached to there and come over like that, if that makes sense. And then I need to put some side pieces on it as well. So hopefully that's a bit clearer. So, but I just wanted to make that, I don't want it to be over the top decorative, this particular pouch or journal. I just want it to look nice. And so I've thought, well, maybe that's what I'll do. And I just need to kind of center that a little bit more, like that. Make sure it's the right way would help. And yes, it is. Sometimes it's a bit hard to tell. Let me double check. Yes, it is. Okay, so I just need to move it down a little bit, and I need to glue that into place so it doesn't get lost. Okay, so I don't need like a big heavy strong glue because I probably will stitch it once I've got my tie in there as well. So I think I'm just going to put a bit of this glue here, enough to hold it and keep it in position. The weather's turned quite cool, and so of course my glues are a bit stubborn. Whereas usually they're just pouring out. Just line it up there. Let's have a look. And this beautiful lace or trim is from Lavish Laces. Okay, let me just trim that off there. I'll just trim it, it's fine. Okay, get rid of that, keep that. And so that will now I'll just put a bit of glue like at the ends of it and not in the middle, because I need to be inserting something in the middle unless I change my mind later down the line. I'll just do that. Like that. That looks about right. Just a little overlap there. Like that. And then this needs to be attached to here like that and stitched on there. Before I do that though, it might be easier to put the little side pieces in, which is what I've got here. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? Might be better to have a rounded bottom. That might be the best way to go, I'm thinking. Let's see if we've got something that's a bit too small. Something rounded. How's that? That could work. Just to give it okay. Do that. Hopefully that will make it easy and look nice at the same time. when you have a journal, you can go like that, and it gives it a rounded look anyway. So let's see how we're going to do this. See, that end doesn't come right to the top. That comes. Maybe I should just let's have a look, and I'm just using little clips. To hold it in place. Like that. Making sure we've got a good side out. Oh, I don't think that's right, is it? Hang on. That. 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 And like that, and like that. Okay, we need to bring it down a little, like that. So it has to start there, I'm thinking. Instead. Okay. And the same on this one. So about there. Okay. Like that. That's about right, yeah, like that. So it'll end up like that. See that? What I might do is just on my sewing machine, on a large stitch, see if it works first. So I'm going to do it on number 4 stitch, so if it doesn't work I can pull it out easily without damaging the paper too much. It should work. Depends what thread I've got going in my machine at the moment. Okay, so I have a light grey. I think I'll leave that in and put it on a large stitch and just see how that works. Wish me luck. Okay, well, that was certainly different, but it seems to have worked quite nicely. For one side at least, and so I did a big stitch, as you might be able to see there. You have to take it very, very slowly, like I did it stitch by stitch around here, because it's not fabric, it's paper, and I didn't want to tear it. So I can trim that little tiny bit there. There's my journal I'm working on. So that should sit in there quite nicely, like that. I've left plenty of width in there, you know, so I can put tags and things in. And now I have to do the other side. But what I thought might be nice is if I try and set the camera up so you can watch what I'm doing. Because you do have to kind of have a bit of a pull and tug on it. And it is paper. And I think with this one I'll have to do it in reverse. Like, have this over here. Like that. Which looks about right. But let's just... measure it. So it's just over the one. A little bit higher here. Like that. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So I will have to start it there on that side and come that way. And try that. So let me see if I can set the camera up properly, and we'll do that. Okay, hopefully you can see me all right here. So I'm coming from this side and I'm going to stitch around. So let's hope you can see. I haven't used the tripod for, oh my goodness, probably years. So I'm keeping it on that large stitch and just anchoring the needle in there first before I start going. And just going down towards that first clip there, then taking it out, coming all the way down to the end of the straight part. I hope you can see. I wonder if I should zoom in just a little. Is that, I hope you'll be able to see, I really do. Okay, so that's the end of the straight part there, and I've anchored the needle right down. I'm going to lift my foot up and force this little piece to come around, and then with my hand winder, take a stitch, lift the foot up again, bring it around. I might be a bit close, might be a bit of trimming in this one. Putting it down and doing the same thing. Lifting it up, making sure I keep the other piece fairly straight would help. Going down, lifting it up, forcing that to come around the curve. Lifting it up. I hope you can see. Oh, my hand's in the way, isn't it? That little flap, I'm just bringing it over one stitch at a time, and then bringing it over again, another stitch, lifting it up, bringing it over, another stitch, and I'll do that until I get to the other straight part, which is over here, just here. I don't know if I can get any better angle for you apart from my eyes. Oh, I forgot to put my foot down. Don't forget to put your foot down. Okay, and so now it's coming back up. So I'm just carefully manipulating it to come back up on the straight. And hopefully it all works out. Because it's only paper and I don't want to rip the paper. Okay. I've got a feeling I went a little bit off, but it's hard to see until you're actually finished. So it's not too bad. I did go a bit close. Oh, you can't even see. Okay. So, where's the camera? I did go a little bit close on the edge, but I think it'll be all right. I could go back and redo it a little bit wider. See how it's come a little bit close there to the edge? What I might do is unpick the stitching and go back, because I was concentrating more to see if you could see it and I wasn't watching. So I'm going to go back and do that curve again in the same way, but concentrating more. Okay, that worked better the second time around. Just going to trim that little bit I said I was going to trim on the first one. There we go. So, which one did I? Okay, so this is the second one. Here you can see tiny little holes where the first one was, but it looks fine. Now, just a couple of little bits I'll trim. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to stitch the top flap across here and here to where I've folded it there. So, and I might use a zigzag for that. I just want to clip it in position so I get it nice and straight. And that one, and that should be right. Yes, I think so. So I will use a zigzag stitch for that. Let's just put that there and change up my sewing machine a bit. Okay, might as well keep the camera on here for a moment. Okay. And that looks all right. A little bit hard to see over here. That's that. And that will fold over. I need to make a crease in it. Probably about there, I'm thinking. I'm not making a hard crease, it's just a, like to give it an idea. And that will be, it's probably the same as the, yeah, it is. It's the same as this part here, which is fine. And that will come over like that. But now what I want to do is make some bias binding to go around the edge of it. I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll round these edges here as well. Just let me, I'll need to move the camera again. Alright, so I want to be making some bias tape, and I have this lovely bias, fabric bias tape maker set that I got from Beebeecraft. I've already been using some of the lovely little clips. I love clips, they're always so handy. So I'll just put those to one side now. I have my rotary cutter that comes in the kit. I have that ready to go. I don't have a very big space here. That has just popped off. There we go. It's just come unglued to that rotary cutter. There you go. 45mm rotary cutter. I'll glue that on. I'm just going to take it off for a moment though, because otherwise it might get on my work. Might pop off onto my work, and I don't want that. Has a lock, this little button here. Press it from that side, it's locked. Press it from that side, and there's our blade. So I'm just going to lock it for a moment. Don't want to be cutting myself. It's been quite a few years since I've used a rotary cutter. You get 4 different size bias binding makers in this. So I've got to work out what size I want. It wouldn't have to be too big. You also get adjustable bias binder foot. All ball pins. Right. Okay, and it shows you how to cut the bias strips, which is what I'm looking for. So I have a mat underneath here. I've only got a small mat to cut on, so I'm just going to have to do the best I can with that. I do have a ruler. Oh, where did I put it? I found it. Got 2 actually that I found at the op shop. I might use that one because that one's got measurements on it. That might help. Okay, so that is our ruler. It's a 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle, I'm sorry. You can tell I don't do this very often. I need a bigger space. I guess I need to get that up on there, and so I put that there, and that there, and that there, like that, and this here. So that's where we make our first cut. I might actually just do that so I don't lose. And we butt it right up against the ruler. And hopefully, oh, look at that. We've made our first cut. Hurrah. Hurrah. Okay. Now I can go from there, I guess, but how do I... Oh, I see. I see. Okay, just let me lock that and find out what size bias I need to make. Okay, so I've chosen the yellow one, which is the 1/2 inch bias binding. And so it says here for the yellow one, For normal fabric, you would cut strips of 24 millimeters. For thinner fabric, 28 millimeters. Now you'll have to do your own conversions into inches. This is like medium. I'll try that. So what we got here? One. Okay, so for 28, so almost, we are just over 1 inch, so about 1 1/8, I guess. Yeah, about 1 1/8 is about up there, I think. Oh, goodness me. That's 1 1/8 there. There. And there. I'm making this very difficult. I guess this is where a proper cutting mat would come in handy, because they have the guides on there. Okay, so, okay. I don't know how much of this we're going to need. I'm wearing a jumper today. It's cold today. Okay, did that cut? Yes, it did. When you're joining your bias strips, you put your right sides together. See, that's the right side on the other side there. You lay it down evenly. Because these already have angled ends, I can put the ends together like that. You have a little bit hanging over here and a little bit hanging over here. That way when you sew your stitching line, it's right up to the top there, and when you turn it over like that, it lays, you know, it's all the same. So either way, then just flatten your seam out on the other side, and you can go ahead and cut the little ears off if you want to, but all my strips are joined together now. Now we have to, just let me move these pins. Now we have to put it through our bias machine. How does that go? That looks so wide. Oh, that's number 12. Yellow is number 12. I think I have to cut the edge across like that to start with. Right, I also need a better mat for this, so we'll try this, because I'll need to iron it as I go along. Whoops, that's the wrong end, isn't it? This end. So does that go in like that? You feed it in like that. I suppose I should turn my iron on already. So we feed our fabric in. Now we get the awl, I believe, and move it along with the awl. I just want to try and keep it fairly straight as I'm doing that until it comes out the other end. Oh, I see it, it's coming. Oh, look at that. Okay. Now we need to have it nice and straight, I would think. Oh, look, it's started doing its thing. Like that. need to have it straight. Like that. And it says to put a pin in. I've just put all those pins away. Let me grab one. We'll put a pin in. Like that. Make a bit of space here. Okay, and as it comes out, we iron it. So the pin is to hold it. Hang on. Oh, let's make sure it's going to do the right thing when it comes out. Okay, like that. Let's pin it properly, shall we? Okay, so there we go. And as it comes out, we give it a press. Like that. Oh, see, I've never done this. Not with one of these little machines. I always thought they'd be a bit fiddly, but actually, once you've got your fabric in there, that's quite easy. I may have cut the fabric a little bit wide. We'll see. It doesn't look too bad. And then as you get, like, run out of space, I guess you move it over like that. Pin it again. And keep going. Let me just press that there. What size did I say this was? This was about the half an inch, I think it was. One. Oops, hang on. Oh, careful. There we go. Let me just fix that. I went a bit fast and it got out of its crease. There we go. I think that's where the join was as well. That's where the join is, so we'll go over that. So I'm going to continue doing that and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, that was fun. I have to say I did enjoy making that, and it wasn't hard at all. This little gadget worked perfectly well. It really did. Where's my... So this is my little pouch. And what I want to do is put the bias binding on here. And it will fold over like that. Now normally you would stitch bias binding on, but because this is with paper and it can't take another 2, rows of stitching because the paper will just fall apart, I'm going to glue my bias binding on. And I think that's okay because it's a paper pouch. But normally, if it was a fabric pouch, you would come along and you would stitch in that ditch there all the way around, and then you would fold it over and back to the other side, and you would stitch it on there as well. You would probably hand stitch it if it was a fabric pouch, but it's not, it's paper, so I'm going to glue it on. So just let me move my ironing mat out of the way, and I think I hope I might have to do a quick measure to make sure I have enough of this. because it'd be much easier to add a strip now than when I'm done. That wouldn't be very good. I'm just allowing a little bit extra, and it looks like I might have enough. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Oh, wonderful. Okay, that's a good guesstimate, that was. I am going to go across there. I've got to stitch that a little bit more there too. I am going to, oops, they're the wrong ones. We don't want that. I think I'm going to I can't get that in there, so I'm just going to do that and curve that edge. That way I can start there and bring it down. Yep, that looks fine. And then with that, I'm going to put it there. Get them fairly much the same. And the same here. Just because the little corner rounder I think is just a little bit too small. So let's just do that. I'll fix that in a second. A bit jaggedy. And I just think it's easier to get around rounded corners than it is around square corners. There, like that. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I've just secured those end pieces a little bit more, just because I hadn't ended them off when I was using the larger stitch, because it was sort of just to see if it was work, but I left it. So let's get our bias and start gluing it. That first little bit there. Okay, it'll be fine. Just finger press it a bit. That was when I first put it through. I hadn't got it quite straight. Okay, so I've got some quick dry adhesive here. I'm going to use that. That might be the best thing. And I'll start it off and I'll show you that, and then I'll go ahead and do it. Oh yay. Okay. So I'm just going to rip right on the edge in about a quarter of an inch. And I'll probably do it down there to start with. Okay. Find the end of my bias. put it on. Like that. And just kind of roll it around the corner. Because it's bias, you can kind of stretch it a bit. So hopefully that will work nicely around the corner there for me. Making sure it's even on this side, so I've got enough to tuck over. That looks about right. Okay, that's the tricky part around that corner. The rest should be very straightforward. I just needed to make sure that when that rolls over, it has enough on that side as well. And because all the rest is basically straight, it should go on very easily, she says. I like the idea that you can make your own bias, though, with these little machines, these little gadgets. I have seen them around for years, but never thought of using them. But now that I can see how easy they are, and easier still if you had, like, you know, proper cutting mats, larger cutting mats and things like that, and a little bit more space to move. But they make very good bias binding. And once you get it in the little gadget, it worked very easily. I just want to lift that up and move it over a bit because that's where I double stitched over that. So there we go. We don't want that mess showing if we can help it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and glue that. So as I'm going around, of course, it is much easier just to open the bias up and glue it within that first little 1/4 of an inch there, especially going around the curves. I never thought of that before, but there you go. Learn from my error. There we go. And so that has all been, so you can see where I decided on this curve here, I thought, oh, it's easier to do it like that. And then just, there we go. And then you can just flip it over like that rather than doing it when it is flipped over. So let's have a look. Press it all down. And it definitely made going around the corner easier. That's for sure. I think I just need to put a little bit more glue right in this edge here at the end. And then I'm going to leave it for a little bit. Might be a bit too much glue. Just so it dries properly. Okay. Let's get that on. Okay, I might have to trim that. I'm going to trim it just a little bit bigger than what I think. There we go. Then I can come back and snip it a little bit when it's done. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to let that dry thoroughly before I come back and fold it over and glue the other side. And I know it seems like a lot of fuss and bother for a paper envelope, but isn't that what crafting is all about? Just having fun, you know. Like, yeah, it is a lot of work, but it's fun, and you learn things as you're going along. Like, I've never made bias tape like that before, so, you know, I've learnt something today, haven't I? And that's always important. Okay, that's a bit better. All right, I do also need to put... see, I could have put bias tape across there. I might zigzag across there the way I'm going to do it across there as well. That'll hold it. And, oh, well, when I do that, that will do that side as well. Okay, I'll let that dry for a while and then I'll be back. So I'm gluing the other side down. And I'll just show you, I'm just going along, making sure I get the glue not just right on the edge, but, you know, 1/4 of an inch out. Like that. Giving it a little fold. And pressing down. Like that. And checking the other side, make sure you haven't kind of pulled it too far, because you want it you want the binding to look nice and even. Okay. Now I'll just show you how I was doing the corner. So that's my corner there. Let me just tidy that up a little. Okay. That's my corner. I am taking the glue all the way from where it needs to come from, around the whole of the corner, like that, 1/4 of an inch out, or however wide your bias is, grabbing the corner, the actual corner, and bringing the corner and pressing that down first, like that. If I do that first in the corner there, then I can ease the other part in like that. And the same as over here, I can fold that over and then ease it towards the corner, and that way it keeps it nice and tidy like that. And it actually looks like it's been stitched. It's actually going quite well, although I'm having a bit of problem with this glue. I don't know whether it's getting old or something, and it's just not wanting to stick very well, so I'll have to go round, I think, with my other glue at the end and just poke it under any little edges that I may have missed or that's come up. So I'm just going to continue around now, just putting a 1/4 of an inch glue strip. If my glue wants to work, I'm There we go. Could be the cold weather, it just doesn't want to work. And all the way down. If you can get a nice long strip done in one go, that's good. Like that. And just where the bias may have joined, just be extra careful that you get that nice and straight along there and don't pull it out of shape. There we go. Nice press. And on the home stretch now of the last corner, so I'll go ahead and go around that because it's quite fiddly in there, I'm not going to lie, but it's the same sort of concept. Just try and get the corner, well, it's one big corner. So if you can do that part there first in the middle and then ease the rest of it around, it should be easy enough, she says. Let's have a look. They're both a little bit different because you're coming from different sides, so. But at least you have the stitch line in this instant to guide you where you need to be. You know, you wouldn't have to stitch the actual pocket together. You could have glued that together, but I just wanted to stitch it, so there we go. Up and around like that. There, press that, and there we go. And then back here, just getting that where it's supposed to be, like that. And folding it over and easing it in, because like I said, it's the bias, it's not cut on the straight, it's cut on the bias. It all eases in really nicely, so nicely. Look, there's just no wrinkles there at all. So I'll finish this off and I'll be back. I'm just making some more bias binding, and I'm making the 2-inch, I think that's what it is, the 1-inch, the 1-inch bias binding. And when I made the last slot, I cut it square at the top before threading it through, which isn't probably a good idea because it was a bit hard to get it through. This time I left it as a point right here, and it was so much easier. Look, I'll take it out again, and I kind of left it like that, and I thought maybe I'll try the other end, seeing as that's already been done before. And I thought, well, I'll get it in, and we get the awl and move it down. And because it's a point, look how easy that went through. Now, whether that's because it's a wider piece or whether it's because of the point, I'm not quite sure, but it worked a lot easier. So put my pin in, and I'm going to go ahead and make some thicker bias binding. So that'll end up, it's 1 inch, half an inch, and I'm going to use that as the wrap on my pouch. So I'm just going to use the same method as before, ironing it and pulling it through. So that's all done, and I will be just folding that over and stitching it together close to the edge here. But before I do that, I'm just going to cut that straight across there. I will fold it back on itself like that first, stitch down there. I'll do that. Okay, so I just stitch that down. I'm just going to take a little wedge out of that, being careful not to cut the stitching, and then I'm going to turn it the right way around. I'm just going to use my little pokey tool here, there we go. Get that point out nicely, and now I can fold it together like that. In fact, I can take a tiny little wedge off that one as well without cutting the threads. And now I can put that under my sewing machine and stitch it down there. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I'll be back. Okay, so that's done, and that turned out quite all right. There's even a little join there that you can barely see, and the end part is like that, which is nice and neat. I did not do that on the other end because the other end is going under here. Now, I'm not quite sure whether I want it under there like that or under there like that. I think I might put it under there actually. And that just needs to come through in the middle like that. And I'll just where'd I put my clips? Little clips, also part of the kit. I will just clip that there like that. And now I can zigzag across there. I can't do it inside. I started to, but I can't because it's paper and you can't manipulate it the same way as fabric without it ripping. So I think I might do a blanket stitch by hand across the top of the inside. See how I've got the little tail hanging out? Once I've zigzagged it, I'm going to trim that off. So I'll just zigzag. Okay, now I didn't back stitch at the end of the zigzag. I can take that off now. That's all securely stitched in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the back, and when you pull your thread, see how there's a little loop? If you pull that little loop through, both threads end up on the other side, same as at this end. If I grab that thread and pull it, it pulls a little loop, and then I can do that, and then I can tie them off in the inside, and I don't have to have a back stitch showing. Just do a couple of knots just so it doesn't unthread. Did that go under? I don't think it did. Okay, like that. that. Now I can trim those off, not breaking the knot. And that one just a little bit out from the knot. And then I can also trim this like that. Maybe I can get it a little bit more. There we go. Get those bits out of here. Oh my goodness, that looks so long. I probably went a bit overboard with the length of the... oh my goodness, I did, didn't I? I think I'll be shortening that a bit. I think I definitely will be shortening that. If I want that like that. See, and doing it this way, you don't have to put a button if you don't want to. You kind of want it going around twice. So it probably, you could do that. It just seems very long, doesn't it? Very long. I'm not going to shorten it until I finish the journal, because journals can get out of hand. But I am going to go back and put a little bit more glue. Because like I said, I don't think that glue was working as well as I thought it was. But I'm quite happy with that. I love the way the bias binding turned out. It's easy, and I like that. I think it's fun to use it with paper. Just another way to do it. I will blanket stitch that. But there you go. I thought I'd better come back and show you how I'm finishing this little lip off, because I couldn't get it. It was a bit hard under the sewing machine because it's paper. So I'm just doing a simple blanket stitch across here. And I'm just using 3 strands of stranded embroidery thread. And it just looks like that. And that should finish it off quite nicely. Because it's paper, I'm having to, usually you kind of go like that, and it, you know, the fabric kind of bends with you, but I'm having to sort of loop that thread over with my hand a little bit differently. Like when it's there, I have to do that, whereas I don't normally have to do that. But that's okay. It works. It works, and I'm not trying to be too perfect about these blanket stitches. They're just, you know, spaced fairly evenly. That's what I'm saying. They're fairly even. So like that. I'll go ahead and finish that off. All right. So I'm calling it finished for this video. I may or may not shorten the cord. It is rather long, but that won't be a hard thing to do. All I would do would be to cut it, take out a few stitches, and repeat the end part exactly the way I showed you, turning it over, stitching it, and then turning it back through. Wouldn't be hard at all. So let's have a little look. I've just placed an unfinished journal in there at the moment just to pat it out a little bit, but there's plenty of room in here for extra bits in this journal. That's on nice and securely. We have our zigzag across the front, our beautiful trim, a lovely bias binding that worked incredibly well, both for the edging glued on and stitched for the tie. Inside, I have the blanket stitch that I did all across the front there. I think that looks quite nice. It gives it a nice handmade look as well. As I said, this journal still has to have tags and everything. There is ample room in there for plenty of expansion of this journal. So I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I could have lined it with fabric as well to make it stronger. I've made pouches like that before with paper and fabric. But I kind of want this journal and pouch to have a very, almost a delicate touch, you know, where you wouldn't want to be handling it too roughly. It's handmade paper, you know, you've got to be careful with it. That's the kind of thing I wanted to come across. So there you go. Thank you so much, Beebeecraft, for sending me these lovely tools to work with this month. The wonderful bias binding kit that also comes with the awl in there, and some pins that go there, and some little clips, as well as the rotary cutter. So thank you everybody for watching, and do take care. Bye bye.